Again, start.
What do you see as the future of heritage preservation in India?
Yes. Um, India has lots of heritage. Uh, the pace of destruction is really not a happy scene, uh, but that gives the youngsters an opportunity, a lot of work to be done, and lots of jobs pending to be done. So it is very saddening to see a lot of buildings which are pulled down, but the awareness is going up, and the people who are ready to support, are going up, and because of so much undocumented and unpreserved heritage, the opportunities are good for youngsters and new emerging professionals. I'm still optimistic. I mean, in the last 20, 30 years, I've seen a lot of destruction, but at the same time, we cannot give up hope. And if we really pick up, this is the time for all of us to join hands together and then act and preserve. So I am hopeful and optimistic.
Thank you. And kind of going off of that, what other challenges do you see in the preservation profession?
Basically, it is the will of the government, which is very unfortunate. The mindset and the thought process of many governments, whether it's state government or central government, is not so pro heritage. Uh, Material preservation doesn't take so much of importance, even in the cultural ethos of Indian culture. Actually doesn't focus on material preservation. It is, the education of the spirit and the soul lives on. That is the kind of ethos this country has is made of. So to introduce something and preserve material objects is not something that has been there in this country. And if you look at the culture and tradition that's passed on, that has been more of an oral tradition that has come about. But in a way, this is picking up that we need to preserve cultural objects, architecture, and built and unbuilt heritage. This has picked up. So what is challenging is, the governments have not been as much supportive and proactive in terms of policy and budget allocation, and versus the interest that they're showing in development. Definitely, India has picked up a lot in the last 20, 30 years with more economic flow, and it's a young India. If you look at our population, there's a huge population, and we have younger population. So it's very energetic, very active, but all that energy is into development. So that is a big challenge. Second thing is because of non-investment in the heritage preservation, the paying jobs, there are opportunities, but then and it is as you know, it is not an easy profession. Easy profession in the sense you have to really work hard and do a proper job. Till you get established, you need to actually prove your own credentials and your value to the profession. Till that time, youngsters don't get any easy paycheck. So to pull in youngsters, we need to have higher pay checks, and maybe that's a carrot that we need to show so that more talent flows into this. So I think that is a challenge, and a very few small percentage of youngsters take up cultural heritage as a field and take the difficult route. It will be good if we can attract more individuals taking up heritage preservation as a profession.
Thank you. And then going into our project for the last 2.5 months, what do you see as the significance of the Zamindari Museum and Cultural Center?
That's a very important contribution that this project World Heritage USA internship is doing. Scala is working on. We have a few museums, popular museums and important museums in Hyderabad, but none of them are a city museum. I mean, there are across the world a few city museums which talk about the development, heritage, history of the city. And a museum is a place where you can educate the youngsters and the visitors on how the city has done on a particular theme, how a particular period, historical period, or the rulers or the important personalities have contributed in that particular field needs to be told as a story to the next generation. So that kind of a museum is not presently available in Hyderabad. So when we see residency, British residency, only a part of it is restored, and it's made into an interpretation center focusing on only one particular resident. No wonder, I mean, no doubt that the fifth resident, Patrick and Fairness's story was a very interesting story, and that was the fifth resident was the person who got the British residency built and made the subsidiary LLNs and the Secunderabad Heights. Coming to picture, definitely he was an important person, but after the fifth resident, there were other residents also. This story has not been told. I feel that it's abruptly or told in a shortened way. So residency has lots of available vacant rooms. So that needs a purpose. I mean, unless there's a repurpose, there's an active use in these vacant rooms. It's not sustainable preservation. They are in bad shape, but then we are assuming because it's a heritage monument, there has been support from international organizations, these rooms will be restored and then need a positive purpose. And second thing is, the Nizam, the Britishers were residents in the princely state of the Nizam, and all through the history, it is a known fact that it was a joint partnership. British did not have an absolute power in here. So it was at the decisions of the final decision was the Nizams. At the same time, the Britishers had their role as a national rulers. I mean, part of ruling part of India, and they had presence in Hyderabad. So it was a joint ruling, especially in some parts of Hyderabad. So this needs to be told, and I think this is a perfect example of the World Heritage USA internship has come out with a document and a complete solution for a building which has been lying vacant and telling a story that is much needed, which was never told. This story was never told before, and this is going to be a major contribution and remembered and used also by historians and heritage preservationists in Hyderabad. Thank you for it.
Thank you. And then I'll ask just maybe one more, maybe two more. So just your thoughts on adaptive reuse within heritage structures.
Adaptive reuse is known to be a big solution for any heritage habitable building. A heritage building, one is looking at it from the historic preservation angle, that they represent a particular culture and particular architecture. Of course, they need to be preserved. But from the land economics and development point of view, this is all building stock. I mean, they're occupying the city center lands, and then when the cities are growing, there is a direction everybody is taking as an environment and a solution to pollution-free cities to go higher densities. I mean, to reduce urban sprawl as cities spread. When the population is growing and cities are spreading, you're occupying most of the forest land and agricultural land, and the commuting is increasing more. So it has been the trend that because we have the technology and the services, it is better that we optimize land and go up. In this situation, actually, in heritage, in most places, is the historic core of the cities. So you are occupying that land. in that way, like how many monuments and how much tourism will you do? I mean, maybe that's the ideal way to keep the building. But if you don't use the building and try to, the building has to earn for itself, and then you are answerable and you are responsible for the present generation and the future generation of the city also. So you can't block a structure and say, like museums. I mean, education. How much ever you, I mean, how much is to be told is told in a limited number of museums, but not 100% of heritage. Not all museums can be converted into a museum. So so we are responsible for the present and the future generation. The life has to go on. In that way, buildings have to be used in an adaptive reuse manner. That's I think a via media, a nice compromise between that you are preserving the heritage and also being responsibly giving back to the present and the future generation in terms of economics and development.
Thank you. And then, last question. Your advice and tips for youngsters who are really interested in diving into the field of heritage and preservation?
For the local Indians or others?
We can start with local, and you can also branch out.
Yeah. Yes, I feel I'm very passionate about this field. When I go dive into history, see, this is the only field. I'm basically a trained architect and an urban planner also, where we are all trained in the skills of creating something new. And then you are given a situation and you create something new which comes out of your mind. So this is the only field, heritage preservation. When you look back and you understand, you're taught the ethics and you're made to learn the continuity of civilization. The built form, there is a past, there is a future, and then you're conserving the past to future. So there's so much depth to it, like. And as professionals, once we get trained in this, we are trained in the process and the methodology of heritage preservation and of how to look and analyze and give solutions to historic properties across the world. So the charters, UNESCO, ICOMOS charters, the philosophy is wonderfully made so that it is universally applicable. So as professionals, we are trained to look at any historic property in its own perspective and then provide solutions. For me, it's a very, very beautiful concept. Personally, after working in the heritage preservation field, I feel I like other, new development also. It's not that I don't like, but that's not as much pulling and challenging for me. So, you just have to taste the depth of the field to really appreciate it. So you get to learn that you are not limited to your own city of birth and work, but then you are going to another country or somewhere else. The same process you are learning and respecting the indigenous civilization, and that's a field which trains you to respect its own history. I don't impose my thoughts, my philosophy on that. So it's a very beautifully made concept. So for sensitive architects and individuals, I definitely want them to taste and explore the depth of life and depth of field. That no other field gives you in terms of profession. So I'm always, like I'm known for the last 25 years, and the students also. I also go to architectural colleges and teach modern architecture subjects also. But then I am branded to be a heritage preservation. So, like people are also sometimes scared that I pull them in and I convert them to become a heritage preservation. So, I'm all for youngsters to take this up, especially those students who are sensitive and who are more talented and wants to, experience life more than for the present. I think that's the best.
Thank you so much. Perfect.